is KCC Live.
Hi, you're listening to Amy on Out There on KCC Live. Our subject today is to coincide with International Women's Day. So we're talking everything girls. We're going to talk about inspirational women, the gender pay gap. We're going to talk about the various groups around our area for women. We're going to talk about girls in sport, girls in music, and all around the world. As always, our show is going to have lots of people contributing. There will be different voices, different interviews, plenty to sink your teeth into. Listen up. More after
99.8 FM.
KCC Live.
Hi, welcome back to Out There. You're listening to Amy. Our subject today that we're talking about is girls. So it's International Women's Day on March the 8th. And a lot of people, when I asked them, didn't really know what International Women's Day was. So this is what they had to say when we asked them.
What is International Women's Day? International Women's Day is a day in the United Kingdom which is set out to celebrate all things women. KCC Live done a day a few years ago where they just had women presenters on all day, and that was the first I heard about it. But now International Women's Day is like a massive thing. Everyone knows about it. Everyone knows what's happening on it, and it's just basically a day to celebrate women, and rightfully so. What do I think about International Women's Day? I'd say it's good. It's good to have it. It's good to celebrate women because years and years ago, obviously before I was born, because I'm only 23, women had no rights. They couldn't vote. They couldn't do anything. It was just all men, and women were basically just sat at home and looked after kids, which is completely wrong. Women should be equal to men, and that's what International Women's Day is like setting out to do. Women are equal. Any job a man can do, a woman can do. Like, whether it's football, women can play football. Basketball, women can play basketball. Any job in the world, women can do it. Even if it's a truck driver, women can drive trucks. So everyone should be equal, and International Women's Day celebrates that. And I think it's a phenomenal event that happens in order to celebrate women's equality in this world, because it's not fair that some people think that men should be more dominant than women. We're all human beings and we're all equal. So big up International Women's Day. Love Matthew Orr.
So I think International Women's Day is about celebrating women who are someone or maybe have inspired others. For example, giving us the right to vote, etc. So it's just about remembering them people and celebrating them on that day.
What is International Women's Day? Well, to me, it's a day that's dedicated to women because of all the hard work like they do, like look after kids and do the stressful jobs that men can't do. I think it's good and it should be recognised, but men should be recognised as well.
To be honest, I'm not too sure what International Women's Day is, but I've got a feeling that it is a day to celebrate, the Beyoncés of the world, like the strong, independent women, people that want equal rights. All for it myself, like.
So when I was younger, I don't think International Women's Day was something that I was too familiar with, and I probably, if you'd have asked me when I was younger, would have said that it was something that I'm not particularly bothered about. Which now, older me, is quite upset probably about my attitude from when I was younger. Even though I paid attention in school and I remember the history lessons, and I know that things weren't always equal between men and women, at that time of being sort of younger in school and finding out about these things, it didn't really faze me. It wasn't something that I kind of could relate to. Despite being a woman, it just wasn't something that I thought, okay, this is an issue that requires my attention. So I can't ever remember celebrating an International Women's Day in school or college or anything like that. But now as I'm older and I've got more awareness of how the world works, and I am in employment and I am working in the community, I think it is important to challenge or to kind of highlight things that need to be challenged or need to be spoken about, and things do need to change. So regardless of what the issue is, it shouldn't be something that's just accepted. It should be something that is looked at. And if a way of looking at it to raise awareness is having something like International Women's Day where we do celebrate women and the achievements and equal rights and things like that, then yeah, I do think it is absolutely necessary. How you celebrate it and what you do to celebrate it, I think it's different for each person and each organisation. And I think whatever you do something to acknowledge it, because there was a time, and I'm saying and I'm referring back in history, but right now we're going through an issue with gender pay gaps and women not being paid as much as men within the same position, which in this day and age just seems a little bit behind the times and not allowed to happen. So yeah, International Women's Day, it's really important that we celebrate it. It's really important that we acknowledge that although it seems to be on the surface that there's equal rights between everyone, there isn't still. And there's still a lot of work to be done to improve that.
99.8 FM.
KCC Live.
Some interesting views there on what International Women's Day is. So I must say, I did notice when I was asking people about International Women's Day, as you do. I asked people in the radio station, I asked people on social media, I asked people in my college class, I asked just generally everybody that I came across as I've been sort of getting information for this show. And I must say, I found that a lot of men, when you ask them about International Women's Day, they're a bit like, well, when's International Men's Day? You know, they want to be special too, of course. So for the record, International Men's Day is held on the 19th of November. So you've got one, guys. And the aim's to improve gender relations and promote unity. Now, I think it's great. I'm all about gender equality, and so is Out There, and that's what we're sort of pushing for. And, you know, gender inclusion as well. International Women's Day isn't necessarily just about women. You can be a man and still want equal rights for women, because that is what we should have. You know, it's not women trying to push men down or men trying to push women down. It should be that we're both there and we're both helping each other's rights, even if, you know, they're not our own personal rights. So even if you are a gent and you're listening, don't tune out, because you know what, you might listen, you might learn something. Our next show that we're going to be doing is going to be on men and looking at things like mental health and things like that. So we will be covering that in the next show. But for this one, stay tuned, because there's some really interesting information, and I must admit, some of the things I found out I was really surprised about. So here's a bit of information on International Women's Day anyway. It's on March the 8th, and it's a global day celebrating the social, economic, cultural and political achievements of women. The day also marks a call to action for accelerating gender parity. I quite like that word, parity. It means equality. It's really hard to say. Trust me. When you're trying to read it, I was like, parity? It is parity. It took me a while though. International Women's Day has been observed since the early 1900s, a time of great expansion and turbulence in the industrialised world that saw booming population growth and the rise of radical ideologies. International Women's Day is a collective day of global celebration and a call for gender parity. No one government, NGO, charity, corporation, academic institution, women's network or media hub is solely responsible for International Women's Day. Many organisations declare an annual IWD theme that supports their specific agenda or cause, and some of these are adopted more widely with the relevance than others. So I think it's really important that we do have International Women's Day. I think that if you've got issues and, you know, it's something that we should be discussing and talking about. It was really surprising to find out how unequal some things are, especially in like the business world and jobs and things like that. We'll have more on that coming up a little later. So the theme for this year's International Women's Day is #Press for Progress. So with the World Economic Forum's 2017 Global Gender Gap Report, findings telling us that gender parity is over 200 years away. Can you believe that? 200 years away, they reckon, before men and women are actually truly equal across the board. There's never been a more important time to keep motivated and press for progress. I think I agree. And with global activism for women's equality fueled by movements like Me Too, Time's Up and more, there's a strong global momentum striving for gender parity. And while we know that gender parity won't happen overnight, the good news is that across the world, women are making positive gains day by day. Plus, there's indeed a very strong and growing global movement of advocacy, activism and support. So we can't be complacent. Now more than ever, there's a strong call to action to press forward and progress gender parity. Now, I do agree with that. I think that, you know, if there's an issue, we need to look at it and we need to fix it. And I think that's a lot of what International Women's Day is about, you know. Somebody gave me an analogy once upon a time, and it was for something else, but it's kind of relevant for this too, that if you work in an office and the printer's broken in the office, then you don't go and fix the computer because everything in the office should also be treated equally. You fix the printer because that's the thing that needs the attention at that time. It doesn't mean that the computer's not important. It means that the printer needs some attention and it needs a fixing. So it put a lot of things in perspective, and it seems to work for a lot of these sorts of issues. That, you know what, if there are problems going on, then, you know, we need to address it, we need to look at it, and we need to fix it. So anyway, after this next song, we're going to have a little look at the history of International Women's Day, which I find absolutely fascinating. So more after this.
99.8 FM.
KCC Live.
Hi, welcome back to Out There. You're listening to Amy, and we're talking about International Women's Day. A little bit of brief sort of history. I don't want to give you like a whole history lesson, but I did find some important dates for the UK and women's rights. So in 1908, Aylesbury became the first town in Britain to have a woman mayor. 1914, Britain gets its first policewoman. 1917, the Women's Royal Navy Service is formed. In 1918, in Britain, women over 30 are allowed to vote if they own property or if they're married to a householder. So we're celebrating that 100 years of women getting the vote. But even in 1918, it still wasn't as cut as dry as all women. 1919, in Britain, a new law allows women to become lawyers, vets and civil servants. 1928, in Britain, all women over 21 are allowed to vote the same as men. So we got the real equal vote in 1928, but it did start in 1918. 1929, Margaret Blanfield becomes the first woman cabinet minister in Britain. 1955, Barbara Mandel becomes the first women newsreader on British TV. 1956, Rose Hailbrun becomes the first woman judge in Britain. She also went on to become the first Old Bailey judge as well a little later on. 1970, an Equal Pay Act is passed in Britain. 1975, the Sex Discrimination Act makes it illegal to discriminate against women in employment, education and training. 1979, Margaret Thatcher becomes the first woman Prime Minister in Britain. She was a woman. 1983, Mary Donaldson becomes the first woman Lord Mayor of London. And 1995, Pauline Clare becomes the first female Chief Constable in Britain. Also, a nod to 2013, when women were given rights to marry other women, of course, because civil partnerships became legal in marriage. I think it's important that, you know, gay women also have the same rights as straight women. All women across the board should have the same rights. It doesn't matter who they are, but we should also be making sure that minorities like gay women, women of colour, are also getting equal rights. Speaking of which, we were talking about strong people of colour in the station, and we got onto the subject of the new film out at the moment, Black Panther. And I've not had a chance to see it yet, so no one ruin it for me. But Christine at the station manager, she'd seen it and she was like, do you know what? It was so good. She was like, it was amazing, and it was so good to see seriously strong women of colour portraying, you know, these characters, and the representation that was there. So we were talking then about, you know, women's equal rights and stuff, and how people of colour as well have contributed. So we got onto Rosa Parks. A lot of women had listed her as one of her female inspirations. So if you don't know Rosa Parks, she was a black activist in America, and it started because in 1955 she refused to give up her seat on a bus. So in Alabama it was. She basically, it used to be that the bus cars were segregated, so you'd had a white bit for white people to sit in and a bit for black people to sit in. So one day she sat down and this white man expected her to move, and she basically just went no. And, you know, she then continued. She kind of accidentally almost fell into the activism, but then carried it on and on and on for her whole life. So she was a real inspiration in that sense. And, you know, she was a real voice about racial segregation and equal rights for women of colour and just people of colour as well. One of the quotes from it that I really liked was, "The only tired I was tired of giving in." And I think that is, it really sort of rung with me, because it is something as well that, as far as women go, you know, equal rights, we are tired of giving in. Like, why? And we refuse to lie down. So many of us will not take it. We won't. We refuse to be treated any differently than a male. Another woman who came up who was inspirational was Marsha P. Johnson, who she did identify as female as well as male, but she did identify as female. For anyone that doesn't know, we've actually covered Marsha Johnson a few times on the Out There show. She was an activist at the Stonewall riots and was really out there, you know, for LGBT rights. There's a few really nice quotes from it, and there's actually a Netflix documentary that's gone up recently. I am halfway through, and I'm really enjoying it. It's nice to see a personal insight into Marsha P. Johnson's life. I love, there's a really great quote, and it's one of my favourite quotes. She was up against a judge, and the judge turned around and said to her, well, what does the P stand for, Marsha P. Johnson? And she just turned around and said, pay it no mind. You know, like, doesn't matter. And, you know, that sort of stuck then. Whenever people quote Marsha P. Johnson, that one seems to pop up a lot. But yeah, Black Panther apparently is well worth going to see. It is on my list to go and watch because it sounds cracking. It really does. I will be going to see it myself this week. Coming up, we've got more about the gender pay gap, so we're going to have a little look at that, and I've got a bit more information on Black Panther for you. Stay tuned, more after this.
99.8 FM.
KCC Live.
Hi, welcome back. You're listening to Amy on Out There on KCC Live. So our subject this week has been on girls and women. We've just been talking about Black Panther. And I got sent a great article, and it was about Disney have donated $1 million to the youth STEM program in celebration of Black Panther. For those that don't know, like I did not know, so I went and checked it out. STEM is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So it's basically like the technical stuff. So what they've done is, because Black Panther's got quite sort of heavy themes of like tech, and like there's a girl in it apparently that's really smart. She sounds like she's like a female sort of Tony Stark. They've donated to STEM to sort of do in real life what the film's doing, which I think sounds absolutely fantastic. Really good idea. I also got sent another article which spoke about a girl called Taylor. So basically, this girl, she set out, when she was 9, she set up a GoFundMe because she wants to be an astronaut, which is amazing in itself. So she's sort of, through GoFundMe, she's funded astronaut school sort of thing for NASA. And so she decided that it was really important that girls see films with like important, strong girl leads. So she aimed to raise $15,000 to be able to send 1,000 girls to go and see A Wrinkle in Time. It's a new film coming out, Disney film. Oprah's in it. There's lots of lovely, strong female leads from what I can gather. So she raised $50,000, so, you know, way over what she was aiming for. On a GoFundMe page, it says, most of you remember that at just 9 years old, I raised funds via GoFundMe to attend my first space camp in Huntsville, Alabama, and that one day I'd be an astronaut, science and an engineer. Since then, outlets like GoFundMe not only helped my STEM dreams come true, but others as well. Just this year, through GoFundMe, I raised over $20,000 to send over 1,000 girls to see the movie Hidden Figures, because it was important to me that girls know that with drive, determination and hard work, you can be anything: a scientist, mathematician, an engineer, an astronaut, or maybe the President of the United States, even when the odds are against you. So I tell you what, I take my hat off to her. The amount of money that she's raised for something that she obviously finds really important is just phenomenal. So well done, girl. You go. You send them girls. You show them their example, because she sounds like she's cracking. She sounds like she's a real good example of a strong female woman, and a woman of colour as well. Coming up next, we're going to have a little look at the gender pay gap and the Me Too movement. More after this.
99.8 FM.
KCC Live.
Hi, welcome back. You're listening to Amy on Out There on KCC Live. So our subject this week has been women and girls and Press for Progress, which is the hashtag for International Women's Day. And we've also got Mother's Day as well around this time. So going on from what we were last talking about is the Me Too movement. We've covered this on a lot of the other shows, so hint, go and check out the other shows on YouTube, and you can check them out on kcclive.com. The good place is what you click on, and All our little podcasts are on there. They're good, some good listening, if I do say so myself. But a really brief outline, the Me Too movement came about because of a lot of the scandals and stuff that have been going on in the media with regards to sexual harassment, sexual assault, rape, things like that. So Alyssa Milano sort of brought it back. Originally it was another lady who was using it to make awareness for people of colour, especially women, but it's now being brought into the forefront of everybody. Just, it's that sort of thing where she tweeted something, it was like hashtag Me Too, people replied to it Me Too to say, you know, I've been through this too, I've had this happen, I've had that happen. There was some really heartbreaking stories, some heartwarming stories as well. So it was a way for people to convey that, and the amount of people that came out and were talking about the things that had happened, it really like gathered traction, and it sort of snowballed into a larger movement now, which is great that people are talking about these things. So I found that I was having a little nose around the internet, as I do, you know, before I give you all these interesting information bits. And I've had an article that was saying Me Too spurs investors to move money to companies that support women. Investment industry insiders say they fielded increasing interest from clients about putting their money towards support and investments focused on women's issues. So I think there's two sides with this. I think one side is that people are going, oh, actually, this needs some attention, this needs fixing. Let's do a good thing and put some money in this because it needs it. It's that sort of charity thing. I'd like to think that that's the main reason that people do it, but I'm not entirely convinced. There's also the political side of it, of, you know, there's a lot of famous stuff going on right now around the Me Too movement, and I think people want to jump on that bandwagon as well. So if they're seeing sort of funding these things, then they can be, well, you know, I'm all about this, and they can sort of get that limelight from it. So I'm not sure jury's out on that one, but it's great that people are putting money into, you know, things that are focused on women's issues. You know, it's something that is needed at the moment. We're obviously seeing that it's needed, especially with the hashtag Me Too movement. Moving on from that, though, is the gender pay gap as well. Whenever I mention the gender pay gap, people go, well, aren't men and women paid the same? And they are. We've had a law that says men and women have to be paid the same for the same job. So, you know, if someone's on a checkout, whether they're male or female, they have to be paid the same amount per hour. That's the law. But what it's basically saying is that the people at the top tier, the difference between them and the people at the bottom and their gender. So what's being found is that a lot of these sort of elite top tier people are men in bigger companies, and then the women are the ones that are doing the lower down jobs, if you like. You know, they're not the chairs, they're not the people at the top, they're not presidents or vice presidents. So here's a bit more to explain it. It says the gender pay gap isn't the same as equal pay. Equal pay is that men and women are doing the same job, should be paid the same. It's been a legal requirement for 47 years. Under the Equal Pay Act 1970, and more recently the Equal Pay Act 2010, it's unlawful to pay people unequally because they are a man or a woman. This applies to all employers, no matter how small. So a company might have a gender pay gap if a majority of men are in top jobs, despite paying male and female employees the same amount for similar roles. The gender pay gap is the percentage difference between average hourly earnings for men and women. So you can actually check out your company's gender pay gap because they've been made to publish them by, I think it's the 1st of April. And if you go onto gov.uk, then it's on there and you can actually check out what the pay gap is, and some of them's quite shocking, actually. Like, I think part of the problem is people just accept that the people at the top are going to be male and white and older, and we expect it. We imagine them all sat around, you know, in a boardroom. We shouldn't. We should be questioning that, because I know I don't. I just assume it, that, you know, it's always older, elderly sort of grey-haired gentlemen that are running the business, and it's not always that way. And women could potentially do as good a job as a man. There's a few different things I think though as well that sort of go with that. We always see women as things like secretaries making cups of tea, or in like a more nurturing role as well. So things like teachers and stuff like that, we always think of women. We normally think of women. Whereas when you talk about a headmaster or mistress, you know, headmasters, it's a man. Man's at the top of the school, but woman's teaching. You know, it seems like we think of them in that role. Christine, our station manager, she's a fantastic station manager, and I'm not just saying that because she's listening. Honest, like, she won't give me a wage rise or anything. I'm a volunteer, so you know I don't get on out of it. Maybe get a cup of tea if I'm lucky. She is great, and she's really good at her job, and I don't think anyone could do her job the way she does. I really don't. But when she goes out to events and stuff, a lot of the time, people will go to her, she'll go, oh, I work for KCC Live, and they'll go, oh, right, are you like the secretary, are you the receptionist? Are you HR? You know, they don't assume that she's the one that's running the gaff, and she is, and she runs it well. And so she'll be like, oh, no, I run the place, you know, I'm the boss. And a lot of them will sort of go, oh, and get really awkward about it, which I think they kind of deserve, to be honest, but that's my opinion. But it seems quite often we assume that women will be in a lower role and men will be the boss. If you like, you know, who wears the trousers sort of thing, you know, even that saying it's about men, isn't it? So I think, you know, I've been lucky that I've known a lot of women bosses, if you like, you know, people who are teachers, people who work in the NHS. I used to work in nursing homes. You know, my bosses were women a lot of the time, and they were great bosses and they were really good at what they did. But you seem to find a lot when there's a woman who's in a sort of a position of power, if you like, a lot of the times people will say things about them. So they'll go, oh, she's a B word, that sort of thing, she's a coward, you know, she's terrible to work for, she's a right one. Whereas if that was a man, a lot of the time, like, oh, he's a strong leader and he takes no rubbish from anyone, but they'll personally attack a woman over it. So I found that that's quite common, that, you know, this person's got balls of steel or something like that, whereas the woman's, you know, really hard to work for and difficult and stuff like that. And I don't know if it's the women feel like they've got to be like that. They've got to be, you know, really sort of hard hitting to keep on in that sort of position. Or if it's the, you know, men sort of, and women as well, you know, everybody just decides that as soon as a woman's in power, you know, she's a B word. I'm not sure on that one either. You'll have to let me know what you think. You can go over to the KCC Live Facebook, or you can email me, amy@kcclive.com. And let me know what you think about it, because I am interested to hear people's opinions on these things as well. It's not just me whittering on. Anyway, coming up next, I promised you more people than me and more voices, so you don't have to just listen to my lovely voice. So we spoke to Safina, who's an inspirational woman. She really is. She chairs the Greater Manchester Equalities Network. So we're going to have a little interview with her coming up next.
99.8 FM.
KCC Live.
We've got Safina in for an interview. Hi, Safina.
Hi, Amy.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Yes, so my name's Safina Nadeem. I'm an Equality, Diversity and Inclusion lead. I currently work for Stockport NHS Foundation Trust. And my job involves making sure that our staff and our patients are kind of treated fairly and equitably, and they're not discriminated against, and they get the services that they need.
What path led you to your current position, to your role?
So I started my kind of career working as a nursing assistant in the Learning Disability Health Services. That was many years ago, and my job involved working in the Equal Access team, which was looking at people with learning disabilities and making sure that they were getting equal access to services. And I kind of just landed into that post. I had no kind of nursing experience or anything like that, so it was kind of something that I looked at and I thought that looks interesting. And I did that for 10 years. I really, really enjoyed that. Once I finished doing that, I went straight onto a project called Cancer Pathways. And Cancer Pathways was a project that looked at people with who lived in socially deprived communities, and it looked at that people living in socially deprived communities who were more likely to get certain types of cancer, but less likely to access services and get help, and more likely to die from their cancer. So it was looking at making sure that they got the right information, looking at preventative information as well, and making sure that they got the right services and the right help. And so from then on, I think I realised that I was interested in equality and justice and fairness. So that's kind of my career pathway. And I was lucky enough for one of my employers to fund my master's in inequality.
Oh, wow.
And that took me a few years to do. So yeah, again, I was really lucky that happened, and it kind of just made my passion even more.
That's amazing. You're also chair of the BHA.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that they do? What do you for them?
So the BHA is BHA for Equality. It's a charity that's based in Manchester, and it's a health and social care charity, and it looks at challenging health inequalities that exist. They are based in Manchester, but they work across the country,
Yeah.
and it's looking at mainly sexual health, HIV. But they do a lot more than that, but their focus is looking at that kind of prevention around HIV and sexual health. And they do a lot of work with marginalised communities, other communities as well, to making sure that they're getting the right help for their health and making sure that there's no health inequalities.
That sounds like they really make a difference then, definitely.
I've worked across the Greater Manchester, so I was aware of the charity for many, many years. The charity's been going 25 years. And I was really I loved the whole ethos of their work and the work that they did. So they just approached me one day and said, we'd like you to be on our board. So that's how it happened. And I've been on their board and a vice chair. I've been on the board for about 3 years, and the vice chair was just recently appointed.
As we were discussing earlier, our show this week is on women. A few questions about you as a woman. Have you ever found that different people will have a different attitude towards you in relation to your job because you're a woman?
I think there is always that. There is sometimes, and I think for me, being a BME woman and a Muslim woman, and I wear a hijab and a headscarf, I think people's attitudes are sometimes, people do have stereotypes about me and women. I think that's going. It's not as it used to be.
Yeah.
But I still think there are attitudes towards women. I get stereotypes all the time around what I should be doing. So often when I go to meetings, people assume that I'm the interpreter,
Yeah.
or I've come to help somebody, not an NHS manager. So there are certain stereotypes that exist. Yeah, definitely.
I do find that quite shocking that people have that sort of attitude towards you. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. I think I'm not shocked in a way because my work is around equality and inclusion, so I hear the stories all the time about people being stereotyped or discriminated against. So I think in that sense I'm not shocked. But on the other, you think, come on, it's 2018 now, things have changed, and but unfortunately people still do hold the stereotypes. And I think they are the minority. In my experience, I think things are a lot better than they used to be. But you do still find that people, do kind of look at you sometimes and think, "Oh, what are you doing here?" kind of thing.
Yeah. We heard you've been nominated for an award. What's that for?
So the award is it's for a role model. So the company was founded. It's called Northern Power Women, and it was founded a few years ago by someone called Simone Roach. And what it is, it's kind of a collaborative campaign to accelerate gender diversity in the north of England.
Yes.
So it's a kind of encouraging women, and some men as well, to kind of become agents of change and for gender equality, and get people to kind of increase opportunities for women and mentor. And part of that kind of campaign is that there's 50 role models chosen every year to be part of the future list. So I was nominated by someone, and it was over like 700-800 nominations. So I was nominated, and I made the list for this year's future list for role models for the Northern Power Women. So yeah, I'm really, really chuffed with that.
That's amazing. Well done. So, Safina, what advice would you give young girls who wish to get the same position as you in the same place?
The advice I would give was, don't kind of give up, and don't let people stop you, and them kind of glass ceilings and people are there that will put you off, or for whatever reason you might feel that their blockages are there, but just to keep believing in yourself, and just dreaming what you want to dream, and just believe that you can do it really, and have that self-confidence and that self-esteem, because you will find people along the way that kind of put blockages in or might not encourage you, but it's just kind of believing in yourself, really.
That's great advice. You're also a mum. Do you ever find it hard to balance work and home life? Is that even a thing?
Yeah, I mean, my I've been a mum for many years now, and I think looking back, it has been tough. But I think I've been really lucky that I've had support from my parents, my mum, my husband. So the way I see it, we see it as a relationship is that we're both partners and we're both equally responsible for childcare. So we make sure that it's a partnership really.
Oh, I
That's
agree.
really, really helped. And I think I've really been lucky because I've always worked in public sector and people have been so flexible with me and making sure that if I've got things going on that I do have that time. So I think I've been really lucky. I've had really good employers that have been flexible and had really good network of people and that understanding from a partner that it's a joint thing, it's not just me doing it, it's a joint partnership. So that's really, really helped as well.
It's nice to hear that you've obviously had that support there. Finally, it's International Women's Day this week. Who's your female inspiration?
I have to say my mum, really. I can't not say my mum. I think my mum has been my inspiration. She came to this country about 46 years ago.
Yeah.
And she was actually carrying me when she came. Didn't have a word of English. Came to a country that she didn't know, and really worked really, really hard to bring 6 children up. And she's such an inspiration, never given up, and always worked really, really hard to provide the best for us. So I have to say my mum, really. I think she's my biggest role model and my biggest inspiration.
She sounds like an amazing lady.
Yeah, she is. She's absolutely amazing.
Savina, thank you so much for talking to us.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure.
99.8 FM.
KCC Live.
Hi, welcome back. Thank you so much to Savina for that fantastic interview. So moving on for that though, we had a look at the different sort of girl groups and stuff that were in Liverpool. There was loads. There was so many, which was great that, there's lots of support out there. So we picked a few. And we found a few that were aiming to get women and girls into STEM jobs. So science, technology, engineering and maths. And one we found was Girl Geeks, which is really cool because a lot of the time when you think of geeks and nerds and people who are like in these sort of techie jobs, you think of like males, and it's not. It's also females. There are female geeks. They're not just looking for attention, which seems to be another sort of opinion. You have to look at like the cosplay stuff and things like that for that. People say, oh, she's doing it for attention. She's not. She's doing it because she wants to do cosplay. But yeah, Girls Geeks it's great. We've got an interview coming up a little bit later with Amy, but before that I'm going to tell you about it. So on their main page it says that, did you know that by 2040 it's estimated that only 1% of the tech sector will be female if there are no interventions? 1%. That's a tiny percent. Like, the tech sector is huge. It includes huge companies. Also, that if we were to close the gender pay gap, it'd be worth an estimated 600 billion to the UK just by getting girls into STEM jobs. And come on, girls, we're capable. Too right. Some of the women that I am lucky enough to know are so strong, are so clever. Like, the things that they know is just amazing. It's like wizardry to me. It really is. I'm not a techie person. It's just magic. So anyway, we're on a mission to change this by creating positive interventions such as events, courses and workshops to inspire women and girls of all ages. We also celebrate and showcase role models within the tech sector. If you check out their website, the Girl Geeks website, it's really good. It's nice to see what they've got on there. So they've got their little journey. So they thought, where are all the girls in tech in 2013? They started a Twitter account and a dodgy website. Their words, not mine. Grew a loyal online community. And then they left their jobs so that they could do more of what we love. I love that it's really personal as well. You can obviously tell that they really love what they do. And then they've got Liverpool Girl Geeks come in all shapes and sizes, from makers to coders, marketers to gamers. They've got blogs, they've got events, they've got all kinds. Really interesting. If that's something that you're into, have a look, check it out, because it's a great group. So we spoke to Amy. She's an ambassador for Liverpool Girl Geeks, and this is what she had to say.
The station with attitude. KCC Live.
We've got Amy in for an interview. Hi, Amy.
Hiya, Amy. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I am a producer for an independent video game company in Liverpool city centre called Loose Games. And we work on lots of different games for consoles, PC, mobile. and recently became an ambassador for Women in Games to try and get more women into the games industry.
So what does it mean to be an ambassador in Women in Games? What is it that you do in your role?
So it's quite fresh for me. I've only just started. When I went to the meetup, which was last year, there was lots of women and men there as well who understood that there is a big gap in diversity in gaming, meaning that the games aren't reaching the widest audience we can do. The opinions are quite narrow-minded as well, that it's just mainly from a male point of view. And when you have that gap, you don't reach everyone that you should be reaching. You're not, you can do a lot better, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're missing out on lots of different opinions as well to make your product better. And I've seen lots of women there who were really inspiring. And I actually, at the point, thought to myself, wow, I do maybe have a career here for a long time. There's me thinking that when I reach, say, 40, 50, I'm no longer going to be relevant in this job. But there I've seen lots of women much, much older and enjoying their jobs and doing really well at them. So it's more to get girls into the industry, recognise that there is a place for you there and that you can make a difference.
So were you yourself ever worried when you were going into sort of a more predominantly male-orientated industry? Were you aware of that?
Well, I have a sister who's 10 years older than me, and she's like a chartered engineer, mechanical engineer. She's the only one in the country who can do her job. And I've seen the struggles that she went through university and just to do that job, to be taken seriously. And I do say it did put me off. That's why I went down into the media and art role or side of things. And it was only the past couple of years that I fell into production in games rather than in radio and understood that I really enjoy it. And it is a male-dominated industry. But I don't think I would have went for it if I hadn't fallen into it that way, because I was put off. And still to this day, I do see the struggles that even my sister has when she runs. She's the head of her department, and she still is hitting these glass ceilings and is getting overlooked for promotion.
Why do you think so few women actually get into STEM jobs? Like, what could we do to encourage more women?
I think we have to hit the girls when they're really young. Say, for maybe key stage 3, 11, 12. I think when you get to about 15, 16, you might have missed the mark, I think sometimes it's better to, when you're younger, when your kids are growing up or your nieces or nephews, to make them understand that it's not separate male, female. Everyone can do the same job. To some respects there is like physical differences and stuff. But girls' brain and the man's brain is absolutely no difference really in abilities in doing a job.
Definitely.
And stop saying putting girls in one bracket and boys in another. And make sure opportunities are open to all the kids. And if a kid wants to go and kick a football rather than paint something, allow them to do it. Like when I was growing up, I wasn't allowed to draw in school. I was put into knitting class. Now, to be honest, I'm an absolute amazing knitter and I'm a good drawer too. But I just find that very bizarre that I was told I couldn't do something because I was a girl. I had to go and knit a teddy. So those things, hopefully it's not like that anymore, but those things can't go on. Otherwise, there's no wonder girls don't want to go into those industries.
Definitely.
They're told they can't do it.
Is there any advice you give for any of our younger listeners how to get into the industry?
Just get yourself out there. Don't say to yourself you can't do something. Try it. Okay, if you can't do it, move on to something else. But just get out there and make yourself known. All you can do is your best. How can people get in touch with Girl Geeks? How can they find out what's going on with them and the Girl Gamers as well? Well, we did some work with them recently, and if you look for them online, if you Google Liverpool Girl Geeks, they've got lots of opportunities open for lots of girls in Liverpool to get involved in lots of different things like coding and gaming and various other stuff. We're just doing the gaming work with them at the present time. Awesome. So finally then, who is your inspirational woman? Well, I'm going to have to say my mother, aren't I? I wouldn't be where I am without my mum. Like, she was brought up where women have no choice in studies. They were given hairdressing or cooking. Yeah. Just because of their gender, and she didn't want the same for her daughters, so she brought us up to be very strong, independent women. But as well, any woman out there who stands up for her rights and to try and bridge this gap.
Thank you so much for coming in and speaking to us, Amy.
No, thanks very much for having me, Amy. It was great speaking to you.
Hopefully we'll speak to you again. Bye.
Bye.
The Station with Attitude. KCC Live.
Hi, welcome back. You're listening to Amy on Out There on KCC Live. Great interview there with Amy. Thank you so much for speaking to us about Girl Geeks. Another one of the clubs that we found in Liverpool was the Future Boss Club. First off, I love that it's called the Future Boss Club. That's just amazing. So this is a bit about them. So they were established in September 2016 by a group of young female professionals spanning a varied range of industries. Future Boss Club was set up in a bid to bring fresh approach to building effective networks amongst businesses across the Northwest. Exclusive to women aged 18 to 30, Future Boss Clubs offers a unique concept that puts a focus on female-specific business matters, from new age networking to a series of She Does events, which explore an array of topics that aren't widely addressed but often pondered. The support network aims to prove how boss it is to be a woman in business. I like that. That's a proper great Scoutism, isn't it? How boss it is. Yes, boss. Their mission statement is that it's an organisation set up for young female professionals, 18 to 30, founded by a diverse cohort of city businesswomen. It aims to empower, inspire and support the Northwest's next generation of leaders, whilst building relationships with like-minded women. I think it's great. I think it's such a good idea, like just a way of networking and not having to deal with people getting drunk and, going to parties and things like that. And, there's always inappropriate, well, I'm not saying that always is, but quite often there'll be inappropriate behaviour and things like that. I love the idea of female business owners sort of building each other up and, helping each other out rather than sniping and things like that. It's about time women stood up for each other and were like, I can help you up here, you help me, yeah. And, aiming to get women as well into boss roles, into the sort of, if it's deserving, of course, they shouldn't be discounted just because they're female. So I love that that's what they're all about. We spoke to Ali of Future Boss Club about it, and this is what she had to say.
My name's Abigail Ingalls. I'm the Marketing and Engagement Officer at the Women's Organisation and also a Director and Board Member of Future Boss Club. So the Women's Organisation is a charity and a social enterprise and a not-for-profit, and we help women start and grow their own businesses, as well as helping them with personal development and confidence building and things like that. So also about Future Boss Club, that's basically a personal and professional networking and development group for women aged 18 to 30 in Liverpool city region. So that was kind of born out of the Women's Organisation. We'd established that there was a bit of a gap for young women going out into networking events and things like that, so we put it in place to help them grow and learn and develop together.
That's cool. How did you get involved in this, Abby?
So Future Boss Club was basically born from the Women's Organisation. Our CEO, Maggie O'Carroll, she pretty much locked a few of us in a room for a couple of hours and said, you need to do something about this. And yeah, it's a group of diverse businesswomen from across the city with lots of different backgrounds and life experiences. We came up with the idea and went from there. So we're going to turn 1 year old. We actually launched a year ago. Next week, so the day after International Women's Day, is our first official birthday.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
When you were younger and you were looking at career options, was gender something that you were aware of in terms of stereotypical jobs for men and women?
Yeah, actually, I think it probably was. When I was like about 14, 15, I wanted to be a chef and work in kitchens. And my mum actually sent me to go and do some work experience in a kitchen because she worked in a hotel. And honestly, it put me off for life at the tender age of 14, just because it was a really uncomfortable, male-dominated, intimidating environment. So I think I was quite quickly already put off by that for the rest of my life, pretty much. So yeah, I think maybe I just had that bad experience, but it was something that I was aware of in my personal experience.
And so for some of the males that argue that there isn't any issues with male versus female roles in the world, in the workforce, why is it that it's important to kind of acknowledge that there maybe is, and reasons why places like Future Boss Club exists?
Yeah, there's there's stacks and stacks of reports and evidence and statistics that say that we are completely underrepresented in every sector of society. So the information is out there, and now it's about making a move towards gender equality and gender parity. I think the progress is really slow, but we are making progress. So with organisations like the Women's Org and Future Boss Club, we're there to kind of campaign and put forward the fact that we know these imbalances and inequalities are there, and make steps towards ensuring that there's better representation.
Yeah, and when it comes to gender pay gaps, that's a massive argument in the news right now, and it's been brought to everyone's attention that this actually does exist. Personally, maybe not professionally, how do you feel that we could conquer this? How do you feel that this is something that can be, equality brought to all job roles regardless of gender?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of different arguments. There's different things that basically the responsibility should be lying with the organisations and the companies. It's actually it's illegal for men and women to not be paid the same. It's completely against the law, and that that's a known fact, and that's been like that for so many years. So companies and organisations need to be held accountable by law if they're paying men and women different rates of pay. They need to be fined. They need to be named and shamed. Basically, they need to be a whole range of things, and they just need to be accountable. On a personal level, I guess what an individual can do. It's all about if you think that you're being paid less than a counterpart. It's about asking to see your company's pay records, making the case and asking. I know sometimes it's not the easiest thing to do, but it's a step in the right direction. Sure.
And if those companies are acting ethically, then it wouldn't be an issue, really, would it, to see information?
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. If they're acting in the right way, they're not going to have any qualms about giving you the information.
So part of this show is to celebrate International Women's Day. Is there any particular women, past or present, who've either inspired you or motivated you? Someone who comes to mind when you think of special women?
It's hard. Actually, I got asked this question last night as well. It's really difficult. I think, from my personal opinion, I'm surrounded by incredible women every single day because of the work that I do, and it's a massive honour and a privilege that I get to spend my days talking to women. It's just the type of women that I think are brave and put themselves outside of their comfort zones that really inspire me, and I'm proud to know.
That's real. And as far as Future Boss Club goes and the women's organisation, what kinds of work or what events have you got planned in terms of International Women's Day? Anything that you can do and we can get involved in?
Yeah, definitely. We've got there's so much going on that is really, really exciting. For the women's organisation, we are hosting an event at our building, 54 St James Street in Liverpool, and it's a panel event. It's free for everyone. Everyone is welcome. It's called Women and My Sisters, Not My Competition. So we're going to be celebrating the fact that how amazing it is when women can support each other. So yeah, that's from 2 o'clock till 4 o'clock on Thursday, the 8th of March. So all the information for that will be on our social media and on our website. And then for Future Boss Club, what we're doing is something a little bit fun and lighthearted. We're doing a pop quiz and chill. So we're going to be having pasta and a big quiz and some drinks, and that's from 5:30 onwards at the Old Hall in the Cotton Exchange building. And as I said, that will be on our social media and our website as well. So yeah, lots to get involved with.
That is brilliant. We'll smash that quiz. Any of the women at this radio station will smash that quiz. I hope there's a prize.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, no, there's prizes and everything, yeah.
That's lovely. So can you just give us your social and website information for the listeners who want to get involved?
Yeah, sure, no problem. So for the Women's Organisation, it's thewomens'organisation.org.uk. On Twitter, it's @thewomens'org, and Facebook is The Women's Organisation. For Future Boss Club, futurebossclub.co.uk, and then at Future Boss Club for Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. So pretty straightforward.
That's lovely.
The station with attitude. KCC Live.
Hi, welcome back. You're listening to Amy on Out There. Of course, our subject today is on women and girls and international women. And where would we be if we didn't talk about music? I mean, we are on the radio after all. So, I mean, music helps communicate how people feel. It does, like, emotional wise, Music can pick me up or it can put me down. It really can. If I want to be miserable, I put on a sad song. If I want to be up and motivated, I put on an up and motivated song. Usually, it is actually Beyonce's Girls. I'm like, yeah, run the world. Yeah, that's me. Anyway, you know, you can have a good sing-along car in the car karaoke. I love car karaoke. Me and my bestie love putting on the Rocky Horror soundtrack and singing along in the car. My partner used to roll his eyes, now joins us because he's driving, because I can't drive unless he's in the car. And now we all sing Rocky Horror, so we all have a good old time up in the car. Anyway, so, I mean, there's been loads of influential women in music, so many, and this is just a few, and there's a big list. Brace yourselves. So in the 30s, Sister Rosetta Tharpe, often called the godmother of rock and roll, she inspired Elvis, Jerry Lewis, Johnny Cash, Little Richard, Chuck Berry, just to name a few, and is probably more revered now, 44 years after her death, than she was in her lifetime. So she's one of the real sort of legends of music. In the 60s and 70s, there was lots of female singer-songwriters going on, so Joni Mitchell, Dolly Parton, Carly Simon, and there was a lot there that they owed to Carole King. She was the most successful female songwriter in the second half of the 20th century, both in the US and the UK. Aretha Franklin, in 1985, her album, Who's Zoomin' Who, was first to go platinum, and 2 years later became the first woman to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Her soul, sass and mastery of music live on in contemporary superstars like Alicia Keys, Mary J. Blige, Adele, Beyonce, anyone like that, usually inspired by Aretha Franklin, because she was amazing. Of course, all hail Queen Bey. The singer's visual album Lemonade took the internet by storm when it dropped, and now it's made history as it topped the Billboard 200 after its first week. This marks the sixth time in a row that one of Beyonce's solo albums has debuted at number one, making her first artist to ever top the list with her first 6 albums, which is amazing. Like, Beyonce is just her own, like, queen powerhouse. She really is. And we've recently seen an increase in female rap and grime artists as well. So people like Cardi B met Lauryn Hill's 1998 recording this week, becoming the second woman ever to top the Billboard 100 with a rap single. This got us thinking of other women who sat and broke records in music, and here are some of them. So Cardi B, of course. Mariah Carey featuring Boyz II Men, One Sweet Day, was the longest at number one, which was 16 weeks. I mean, Mariah Carey's got loads anyway. She's got so many number ones. Most consecutive years as well, with a number one single with 11 weeks. Adele, Water Under the Bridge, got the highest record sales on release, 3.3 million copies. Kelly Clarkson, with My Life Would Suck Without You, got the biggest jump to number one in a single week from number 97. Cher, Believe, was the longest span of number ones she got in 33 years. Amazing. Whitney Houston, I Want to Dance With Somebody, was the most consecutive singles at number one. Houston had the most weeks topping both the album chart and the single chart simultaneously. Madonna's Ray of Light got the most top 10 singles with 38. Janet Jackson, Escape, got the most top 5 singles from one album with 7. Rihanna, What's My Name? The only time in history an album's first single reached number one after its second single. Sister Rosetta Tharpe, as we said. Sit Down, invented rock and roll. Sylvia Robertson, Pillow Talk, not the song, but Robertson is responsible for the first rap single of all time, both putting together Sugar Hill Gang and running a record company that put their music out, Sugar Hill Records. She wrote this song for Al Green, who turned it down because it was too hot, so she recorded it and had a top 5 hit. That's right, Queen, you tell him. And of course, again, Aretha Franklin. Sisters doing it for themselves. She was the first woman inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I must admit, I think there are so many amazing, inspirational women in music, in all genres as well. Like, it used to be that music was quite male-dominated, but now the ladies are most definitely showing how strong they can be, and I am all about it. You go, Queens. Next up, we've got an interview with Kat, who's got her own company that works in the sort of music business. She is a fantastic, inspirational woman, so listen up to what she's got to say. And then after that, we've got another interview with Miss Deep, who is a rapper from Liverpool. She also does some more sort of soul R&B stuff. I've just checked her music out and it was amazing. So listen up to that, hear what they've got to say, and we'll be back shortly.
The Station with Attitude. KCC Live.
So we've got Kat here from 10 Letter. Hi, Kat. Can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Hi, yeah, I'm Kat. I'm the director over at 10 Letter PR, 10 Letter Radio, and the newly established 10 Letter Records.
What is it that you do in your job role at the moment?
So I've got a team of us. We've got there's me plus 3 other girls that work for me, and a lot of it's based on promotion across radio, music magazines, websites, various different platforms. So that's where we kind of have the separation between 10 Letter Radio and then 10 Letter PR. And I obviously oversee everything. And obviously get involved with, just like talking about different campaigns to people. People give me their music and then we basically get it out there and get it promoted as much as we can.
Oh, that's really good. Sounds like you got your hands full there.
It's crazy, yeah. It's really busy. And I think the joy of it is that we get to work with music that we love. And obviously because it's independent and we've got quite a small and kind of close team, we all take time to listen to every campaign that comes through. So if there's something that we don't like, we won't work it. So it just means that you're always working with things that you want to work with, which is, it's really good. It makes it more exciting and keeps the passion alive, I think.
I was going to say, you can hear the passion in your voice talking about it. What is it
I love it. I always feel like at the end of each week, there's always more I could be doing, and I've always got to stop myself at the end of each week. But it's something that I'm really passionate about. I love doing it. And someone said to me once, they said that it was an artist actually. They said to me that I'm probably one of the luckiest people in music because I'm able to make a living off it. And I was like, do you know what? I've never taken that for granted because there's so many people within the music industry in different roles, whether it's an artist or whoever, that that have got to do another job in order to, sustain their lifestyle or whatever. But it's like, for me, I'm actually able to live off what I do, which I just think, so amazing. I love it.
What path led to you where you are now, sort of thing? Where did you start?
Do you know what? Some of it's a little bit of fate and just being in the right place at the right time, and the rest of it is a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
But basically, I packed my bags. I decided, obviously, I'm from up north, in Carlisle, and when there's often quite big floods, which I know sounds very random, but my house got flooded when I was 20, and it kind of, I was seeing other people that live around me and everything lose everything that they'd ever had. We're talking people that were much older than me, they were literally losing everything that they'd ever worked for.
Yeah.
And I just thought, oh my gosh, there's so much more to life than just kind of being in one place, working your entire life, for it just to be washed away that easily. It made me realise just, how simple things were. So I just thought, do you know what? That's it. I need to pack my bags. I'm moving to London. And I didn't really have a plan of what it is that I wanted to do. But I moved down. I started just doing some retail jobs and all that kind of thing. And then I actually just randomly bumped into a guy when I was out for a night out. And we were talking about football, and funnily enough, we were having an argument about Liverpool. And he said to me, "Oh, you're funny. If you ever want a job, give me a shout." And he passed me his card, and he was the director of Channel U at the time.
Right.
So I phoned him the next day, and I said, "Oh, hiya, do you remember me?" And he said, "Come down to the office." And he basically offered me a job to just answer the phones and do a little bit of admin and all that kind of thing. And I took him up on it, and that was my first step into Channel U. And I didn't really know what I was letting myself in for, if I'm honest. But as soon as I'd kind of stepped foot in there, I kind of got it. And I remember the first day I walked out of there, and I said to my friend, I was like, within 6 months I'll manage that place. Yeah. And that was it. I did. I was there for about 8 years. I ended up, putting things out with Lethal Bizzle. Like we started like I was at Channel U for 8 years when it moved up to like had its name changed into Channel AKA. We did all of that. Obviously saw like the very early grime scene come up. And then we started like a little record label as well, and we started putting out records for like Lethal Bizzle, Devlin, Louis White with Ed Sheeran, like all these different people, and I ended up managing that as well.
Yeah.
And obviously it was just because it was all independent. It was just like my boss was kind of one of them guys that was just like, right, this is what we want to do. Find out how to do it, Kat, and just do it. And that was it. I was given so much kind of ownership over it, I suppose, and control over it. But it was because I had that, it was like, you know, I had to make it work. So that I'd just go out and I'd learn for myself, and then it kind of armed me with everything that I've had now to be able to move on and do what I do with like 10 Letter.
Yeah, no, that's really good though. It sounds like you've really sort of climbed that ladder and got yourself in that position now where you've got people under you.
Massively, yeah. It took a lot. It took a lot of climbing. Like there was, you know, it was that. Like, but I'm so pleased that I did it in that way because it's given me so many different perspectives. Like I've been the label who's needed PR, and then I've also been on the side where it's like I've been the person that's been plugged to by other PRs. So it's like I've kind of had a really good insight into like all the different areas and what people want and how it can work and all that kind of thing. So I think that being able to bring that then into 10 Letter and give it to my to clients has just been, you know, like beyond any value, really.
Yeah. Have you ever found that with you being female, has that ever meant that people haven't taken you as seriously as they may have done a male?
I think, do you know what? I must admit that I think it's tough sometimes. I think especially in those early days.
Yeah.
Because like there wasn't, I don't know, I think it's more, you know, I came in at a very early stage of the grime scene and everything, so I think that I had to, all of a sudden came in as a kind of gatekeeper.
Yeah.
So, you know, like I had to really spend a lot of time building relationships and kind of a trust, I suppose, as well with people. But I think in terms of kind of like as a female, I think that, do you know what? I think whether you're a man or a woman, you just have to hold your own and keep it 100 with people. And I think that, like, it's easy for, like, to say, oh, you know, have you got, like, you know, like, are you coming against things? I think there's always going to be things, like, in every role. And I think you can kind of roll over and be a victim to it, or you can just prove people wrong. And I think that I tend to look at it that way. I think there's definitely like females and women are different, like definitely misrepresented sometimes. But I think that it's how you tackle that and how you see it, rather than it being like, okay, like, you know, like there is an issue. Like you've just got to come against it so that you'd make it less of a problem and make people understand that, you know, you are there and you can do things just as well as anyone else.
Have you ever found as well with some artists the way like women are represented in music? Sometimes it can be really sort of negative. Have you ever found that you've had artists who've got big egos and stuff and treat you differently because you're female?
Do you know what? I think in terms of, this is a funny one for me because I think that I've always been quite feminine in my appearance. I've always had like the long hair and long painted nails and all that because that's who obviously like I choose to be. And I think that obviously there's definitely been occasions where people have judged me based on that. But I think that there's no better feeling than kind of turning around those initial perceptions and showing people what you're made of by how you work. And like, to be fair, I've been sat in meetings before where I've visibly seen people's attitude change based on the conversation that we're like, based on their first, obviously, like, you know, their initial meeting with me and my appearance to like the conversation that we're having and the knowledge and the information that we're discussing. So like it's quite, you know, like that's going back to like, you know, the previous question. I think that a lot of it is dependent on how you tackle it.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like you've definitely changed some people's perceptions as well. Are there any female artists you're particularly excited about?
Oh, that's a tricky one. Do you know what? There's like we're obviously working with a number of female artists, and I mean, there's people obviously like in the bigger wider world and things like that. There's people like, you know, Steph, who I just like Steph London, who I just think is like absolutely incredible, and she's just like kind of really flying the flag, isn't she, for like the whole UK movement.
Yeah.
I think in terms of us at the moment, we've got, I mean, there's like various girls, Mimley, who have we got? We've got new, like one of the new girls coming through, Shana Bass. She's been getting quite a lot of players and everything at the moment. She's fantastic.
Yeah.
We've got another girl called Armin that's coming through. She's amazing. I think obviously for us, it's kind of like we see a lot of these people first.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it's kind of like you really invest into like a lot of the artists and everything and see it like as a much kind of longer path for them. But I think, yeah, I mean, if we're talking more like kind of that mainstream look, I think people like, you know, the likes of Steph is just amazing. I think she's just brilliant at what she does.
Are there any women as well from the Northwest you'd suggest to watch?
Do you know what? I don't see a lot. I know this sounds awful. I don't see a lot of women from the Northwest, like especially coming through in like out in like my scene, because we're very urban and like grimy and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
So there's not a huge amount. The only person that I can really say, like for me, that and that's because she's obviously like had quite a lot of contact with me and everything, is Lady Ice.
Right.
I don't know if you'll be aware of her. She's more kind of Manchester based,
no,
but she's doing quite well at the moment. She's coming through quite well, so I'm like, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how she moves forward, and I hope it works for her.
Awesome. For the young females in our audience, what advice have you got for those wishing to get into the music, radio, media, or the PR world?
I would say just don't stop learning. Like no matter how old you get, no matter how much you learn, there's always more to learn. And I think obviously in music it changes so much as well. So I think you've just got to be so kind of open to opinion and like, you know, different, like to that movement. I think as well, build relationships. I think that the relationships I've had since I started in music like 12 years ago have remained with me and are literally the backbone to my business. And the fact that obviously I can independently run a company and employ 3 other like-minded women. So I think that those that like they're the key things that you need at any time. And I think that as well, I mean, more specifically in my scene, because obviously we do, you know, like really focus on the kind of urban world again. It's like everyone moves around. So like, for example, people like DJ Target and Charlie Sloth used to bring me their videos, like, you know, when they would, like, you know, Target was obviously Roll Deep, and then Charlie, like, used to do some bits and bobs and he used to rap and stuff like that. So, you know, like, I've known them that long, and then obviously now they've kind of progressed and moved into different roles, but it's like the relationship still remains.
Yeah.
So I think you've got to make sure that you kind of, like, really nurture those. I think that's the main thing.
That's some really good advice. So you're a mum as well. Have you ever found that it can be difficult balancing work and home life, or is that like even a thing?
Do you know what? It's for me. It is it is a massive thing. Like I've got 2 kids and I'm actually by myself with them. So for me, it's just like, you know, kind of like being a single mum, holding down like 3 different businesses, like, and, you know, employees and everything else. It's just like there is a lot to juggle. My son, who is 2.5, when I had him, I actually took 2 weeks off work to have him, and that was it. That was my maternity leave. And when I did that, like I hadn't told anyone that I was pregnant, and when I did that, I put an out of office on my emails, just saying that I was obviously on holiday. And the reason for that was because I didn't want people to think, oh, Kat's having a baby, she's too busy, so she won't be able to do our campaign.
Yeah. So I being bad for business.
Like that was a real big like juggle for me. And literally 3 days after I had him, I was back on email, and I actually landed our Bugsy Malone campaign off that.
Wow.
And it was that, you know, so it's just one of them things that you've just got to do. But saying all that, it's like, this is my life for me. Like, this is my absolute passion, and it's something that I absolutely love. So I would probably much rather be sat on my computer doing an email and talking about what I do rather than be sat watching TV.
Yeah, but that being said, I think you're an absolute inspiration
kind of like,
for being able to spin that many plates. Like, I've got 2 children myself, and I cannot imagine keeping 3 businesses on the go. I just won't get out of bed if I'm on.
I know, it's honestly, sometimes it's really difficult, and it's like, like during the week, I must admit, I probably see the kids like a matter of like 2 or 3 hours a day, because it's like, like by the time they've come home from, nursery, and then you kind of like quickly get some food into them, then it's bedtime, bath time, story time, and then I can go back to work until like 11 o'clock at night. And that's me every night of the week. Whereas as soon as it comes to a Friday, I get my reports and everything finished, and then that's it. The weekend's theirs.
That's amazing.
Like,
really
I don't,
is.
like, I never ever, that's it. I won't work on a weekend, because I'm like, no, you've got to have that balance. Do you know what I mean? Like, but when you're working for yourself, I think you've got to be so careful, because it's so easy to go either way. But I think you've got to be really careful with it. But yeah, it is a thing. I can't lie, it is a thing.
I do agree. It's International Women's Day on Thursday. So who do you look towards as a role model or inspiration?
Do you know what? This is probably like super cheesy, but I've got to say my mum.
No, that's not cheesy. So many people have said their mum.
Probably some of my closest female friends, if I'm honest, because I think my mum, because she brought me up by herself. Like, my dad wasn't around when, like, I was growing up, and she was a head teacher, and, worked really long hours and everything as well. And me and my sister, we grew up and had to be quite independent quite quickly, and it did us no harm. And I must admit that I think that it probably gave me the skill and the, like, that kind of go-getter attitude that I've got, like, having that. So, and like, I think that, even though it's quite difficult balancing everything with my kids, it's like, I must admit that I think that it's probably given them so many great life lessons for their own future.
Yeah.
So I think mum's got to be one. And then when it comes down to music, probably the other person that I would say is one of my very good friends, who's called Nadia Khan, and she manages Lethal Bizzle. And we've kind of been alongside each other over the last decade, and we've kind of supported each other through each other's struggles and seeing the hard times and everything else. And it's like, kind of seeing where Lethal and Nadia are now and what they're doing is just so inspiring for me. I'm just so proud of them, and I just think that, like, that really spurs me on to be like, right, keep going, like, it's only a step away.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much for talking to us, Kat.
You're welcome. Thanks so much for asking me. It's a total pleasure, and I hope that, some people find some inspiration from what I've said, especially on International Women's Day.
The station with attitude, KCC Live.
So we've got an interview now with Miss Deep. Hi, Miss Deep. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Miss Deep. I'm a singer, rapper, writer. I'm currently doing a mixtape with two girls, Iona Fazer and Nikki Freeman. We're doing a little collaboration working with the girls in Liverpool. Just getting out there, doing my thing.
That's amazing.
Supporting with Hush Media, Hush Media sponsor me as well.
Cool.
So, part of the team.
Awesome. How did you get your name, Miss Steve?
Oh, well, that's a bit funny, that, because really, it was like I was on holiday. It was like my first girly holiday with all the girls. There was like 12 of us, no parents. And we all thought we was bad and something special. And we had all nicknames for each other. But they gradually come as the holiday went on. And a bunch of my friends, they were all bickering and moaning about stupid things, and I ended up going in on everyone because I thought I'd spent all this money to have a good holiday. And I went in on everyone, and my mate was like, "Oh, Miss Steve," and then it kind of stuck with me throughout the whole holiday. And then I took it back from Ibiza back to Liverpool, and then when I started doing my music, I thought, Miss Steve, because I always like rapped, or when I was doing poetry, it was always deep. So I carried the name Miss Steve. So that's where it started from, a holiday shouting at my friends.
I love that. I love that your friends gave you your name, though. That's such a nice, like, sentimental thing, too. Like, you can take that with you. When did you get into music?
Well, I've always, when I was younger, I used to get piano lessons. And I used to be in I used to be in like a musical school when I was a kid. I lived in London, so I used to get private lessons. And then when I come to Liverpool, I got into like a group with my cousin and his boy, and then my other boy, and we called ourselves HTTP, which stood for Hidden Talent Toxic Production.
Nice.
And so like my cousin, he made the beats and rapped, and then my other boy, he did his rapping and then did the production. And so we started doing that, and then we got my friend Nikki Blaze, she put us to support Sway. We supported Sway and Bashi, and we did the Anthony Walker Foundation, and we was doing a few shows, but then we stopped doing the music. We ended up doing a mixtape and losing all the songs.
Oh no.
And and it was like 20 songs, and every time we did a song we couldn't decide which we wanted, so we ended up having about 20 songs, and the songs weren't backed up, and we lost all the songs. And then that kind of like, we kind of parted ways from HTTP then at that point, and then I started just doing my own thing. So that's been like the last 3-4 years.
Awesome. Have you ever found, as like being a female in the industry you're in, that it's more difficult to be taken seriously?
Yeah, and do you know what? Like, that's funny because my friend like asked me that the other day, and I was saying like using the music as an example, like not overrating myself, but I believe I'm very talented, and I believe that I'm better than a lot of people that get recognition coming out of Liverpool, but because I'm a female, I kind of like get shut back a little bit.
Yeah.
And I feel like, within the music scene as well, there's more opportunities there, and it has been more for the boys. And I find like us, like the boys work together, but as for like the girls doing the music in Liverpool, like I find like we don't like support each other enough, and we should, being females, to get out there even more. I feel like there shouldn't be a competition with everyone. We should all work together.
I definitely agree with that, girls together. Music hasn't always held women in the best of lights. Do you feel recently like urban grand music, stuff like that, has shifted a bit more for women being a bit more respected as bosses and like artists and stuff, or do you think it's just the same?
No, I do think it's shifted a lot more. I think like there's a little bit more acceptance to what women say. Back in the day, if a certain woman was spitting bars and she said all rude words, there'd be a label of that person. But you know what, to be honest, looking back, like, I've spat a few things, because my idols were like Lil Kim, Foxy Brown, Missy Elliott, and the Brats, like that genre. And, they didn't say like the the nicest words. So like, I like fed off them words and them bars, and then I would try and put it into my own. But then as I've gotten older, I realised like, it sets a kind of image. People like have a perception of you after you saying certain things. So, but I feel like it's more accepted a bit more now.
Yeah, it's sad that, like, in my own experience, I think it's accepted and encouraged for guys to sort of speak in a certain way, but once a woman speaks like that, it's like, oh God, she must be that type of girl. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, she shouldn't say that. But then you get like me, like, to be honest, like, I'm not really bothered what people think, and you can get one song where I'm like, da, 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 and I'm aggressive and I'm saying this, that and the other, and you can get like a slow jam where I'm singing and I'm all loved up. But either way, people will have a perception of you from like what you say in your lyrics.
Definitely.
So I try not take on board what's getting said, as long as like I was happy with what I said. That's all that really matters. But women do get shut down, and a guy could probably get propped for what he said, and then a girl will get shut down.
Yeah.
But I do think it has shifted a bit more. I think there is a little bit more acceptance, because times have changed.
Yeah.
Music's not the way it used to be.
So what about you then? What does the future hold for Miss Deep?
Well, at the moment, I've been leaning towards writing for other artists. That's what I want to do. I enjoy writing for other people. I'm in the middle of doing a mixtape, which will have 12 tracks. I've got 2 tracks I need to record with someone, and then that will kind of show that side of me, because even though I write my own music and that, and I've wrote for a few people, I've never really pushed that side of my creativity. So I'm doing the mixtape with songs that I'm writing, and I've got a show on Friday with Hush Hush Media. They've got Eyes. He's in on Friday.
Where's your show?
Eyes. It's in. That's so bad, but I don't even.
I'm sure you'll know when you get there.
I always know on the day. That's so bad, but I always know on the day.
So anyone's interested, they'll have to have a good Google and find where you are then on Friday.
Oh, I do it all the time. All the time. But that should be good as well. I'm looking forward to that.
Awesome.
That's that. And I'll have a music video coming out with Iona and Mickey Freeman, because we're doing a little mixtape together.
Nice.
Try and support each other, get a little bit of collaborations with other female artists and other males as well. And just network. That's what I want to do this year, network.
Yeah, definitely. Queens together. That's my opinion. So
I agree.
Who's your inspirational woman then?
Within music or in general?
Any.
Okay, so if we was going to talk about music, it would be Missy Elliott.
Yeah.
Because she's just my idol. I just love her. And the next inspiration is me mum.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds dead cliche and cheesy, but
not at all.
I've got so much respect for a person that's gone through so much and is still the love and nice person that she is. So she's my top inspiration, and musically it's Missy Elliott.
Oh, that's lovely. So how can people reach and connect and listen to you then, your work?
Okay, well, on Facebook I've got a page, Miss Deep. This is so bad. I'm so behind in time, but I've just got me Instagram.
Cool.
Everyone used to say to me, "You need to get on Instagram. You need to get on Instagram. That's where you can help get your music." And I was like, no. But I'm on Instagram now.
Awesome.
So me Instagram, Miss Deep, SoundCloud, Miss Deep, and just check out some of my videos on YouTube or the Hush Hush Media page, and you'll find me there.
Oh, definitely. I'll have to check them out.
And I'll have to pass a mixtape for you when it's done.
Definitely. Send it over. We'll have a listen.
Right.
Thank you so much for talking to us, Miss Steve.
Oh, no, thank you.
The station with attitude. KCC Live.
99.8 FM.
KCC Live.
Hi, welcome back. You're listening to Amy on Out There. We're talking about International Women's Day. When I sort of first started putting this show together, I put it out on my social media and asked people who their inspirational women were. A lot of people told me it was their mums or their nans, so lots of amazing mums and nans out there. And then I got some celebrities, I got some ladies from history, etc. So I took a little selection and I thought I'd let you know who people thought. You can let me know your inspirational woman is as well. You can send me an email, amy@kcclive.com, or you can get in touch with us on Facebook. If you search KCC Live, we're there. So I was told J.K. Rowling was an inspiration, which I do agree with. When J.K. Rowling was writing the Harry Potter books, she was a single mum in a flat in Scotland, and no one had taken manuscript, no one even looked twice at her book, and now look at her. So she's come from having nothing to being a very, very rich, influential lady. The next one came courtesy of my partner's dad, and he said Beatrice Shillan. She was a British aeronautical engineer and motor racer during the Second World War. We also had Oprah, whose story is definitely an inspiration. She's came from such tough things. She survived. Miley Cyrus, she does a lot of work for female groups and things like that. Same with Ariana Grande. There was a little debate we were saying about some of the behaviours questionable, which I do agree with, but I do also think that they can definitely still be inspirational and role models when done in the right way. Ellen, I love Ellen, I'm not gonna lie, proper guilty pleasure is Ellen. She's done so much for the LGBT plus sort of people, really being out there, and you know, her and her wife make such a beautiful couple, and she just seems so lovely. Pink, who's another one. Pink's really outspoken about gender things as well, and not sort of conforming to the normal. Princess Diana came up as well. Princess Diana did so much work for charity, like a truly amazing lady, I do agree. Cardi B, who was an interesting one, but I can see why. You know, she's definitely not taking any rubbish from anyone. Tina Turner, who went through a lot of marital abuse and things like that in the 80s, but came out the other side. Ayaan Hirsi Ali, who is an activist over in Afghanistan. Sylvia Pankhurst, who was the first suffragette. Marie Curie, who of course did lots of work for cancer. Malala, who was shot trying to bring education to young girls after the Taliban lifted the ban for boys to be educated. She still advocates for education for girls now. I think she's in uni actually in the UK. Ada Lovelace, who was the first computer inventor. She was actually my partner's. When I said, who's your inspirational woman, he actually said Ada Lovelace, and so did his dad, funny enough. I mean, he didn't say me, just saying, like, psh, whatever. Rosa Parks, who we spoke about a bit earlier. Maya Angelou, whose story is amazing, and we will be ending the show with Maya Angelou's poem. Stevie Nicks was another one. She's overcome drug addiction, things like that, come out the other side. Emma Watson, who does an awful lot for women's rights, takes an amazing stand quite often as well. She's quite outspoken. She refused to wear a corset, for example, in the Beauty and the Beast film, because she didn't feel like Bella's wear a corset, because, you know, she's out, she's running, she's not going to wear a corset. I liked the common sense there. Florence Welch, Casey Bordstein, Michelle Obama was another one. Eartha Kitt. The list really did go on. There was Marsha P. Johnson in there as well. There was all kinds of people from all walks of life. And as I said, lots of people who were talking about their mums and their nans. And I must admit, my nan was an inspiration to me. As I'm recording this, it actually would have been her birthday today. She was an amazing lady, and my mum as well. My mum is a very strong lady, and I do idolise her. And also my partner's mum, Carol, she is cracking. She is such an inspiration, and his nana as well, Elsie. And also my partner Nathan, his dad's partner Hillary, she's also an absolute inspiration for me, all the work that she does. Lots of strong women in my family and around me, and I know I'm very, very lucky to have the people I have. Even my aunties and stuff are all really strong women. I'm very lucky that I come from a family that has lots of strong women, and I feel very lucky that my daughter also has lots of strong women that she'll be able to model herself off, and my son has strong women as well to be able to respect and, you know, be taught how to respect women. Anyway, we're going to have a little bit more after this song, but we are coming to the end of our show. So our next link, I've found a poem. It's one of my favourite poems. It's by Maya Angelou, and it's called Phenomenal Woman. So I'll be reading that out for you after this.
99.8 FM.
KCC Live.
Hi, welcome back. You're listening to Amy on Out There on KCC Live. We're coming to the end of our show now, but I wanted to share with you, it's one of my favourite poems. It's by a lady called Maya Angelou. If you read up on Maya Angelou's life, she is most definitely an inspirational woman. She is my top sort of not family member inspirational woman. She was alive around the time that there were still slaves, and she was in the Deep South, and she had to deal with being a black woman in the South at the time, and his story is truly amazing. She's come on to be an activist for black women's rights in general, you know, black people's rights. She's amazing, so definitely worth checking her out. So this poem's called Phenomenal Woman. Pretty woman, wonder where my secret lies. I'm not cute or built to suit a fashion model's size, but when I start to tell them, they think I'm telling lies. I say, it's in the reach of my arms, the span of my hips, the stride of my steps, the curl of my lips. I'm a woman. Phenomenal woman. That's me. I walk into the room, just as cool as you please, and to a man, the fellows stand or fall down to their knees. Then they swarm around me, a hive of honeybees. I say, it's the fire in my eyes and the flash of my teeth, the swing in my waist and the joy in my feet. I'm a woman, phenomenal woman. That's me. Men themselves have wondered what they see in me. They try so much, but they can't touch my inner mystery. When I try to show them, they say they can't see. I say, it's in the arch of my back, the sun of my smile, the rides of my breasts, the grace of my style. I'm a woman, phenomenal woman, that's me. Now you understand just why my head's not bowed. I don't shout or jump aloud, or have to talk real loud. When you see me passing, it ought to make you proud. I say, it's in the click of my heels, the bend of my hair, the palm of my hand, the need for my care, 'cause I'm a woman, phenomenal woman, that's me. That's the poem. It is one of my favourite poems, and I think it's true. It just shows the power as women have. Just one last thing before we end this show. The last song is Stairway to Heaven, and I'd like to dedicate it to my best friend Dom's mum Marie, who passed last year, and this will be the first Mother's Day that she's not with us. So this is for you, Marie. Thanks for listening. Till next time.